Well, today's the day. I finally figured out how I'm going to get all my tools up here. I'm going to be able to do it a lot more simpler than I've been planning. Of course, I've been working on this for more than a month, out here daydreaming, designing. I've also been waiting on Hercules. They were out of stock on some tools I knew I wanted and wanted to hang up here. But I finally figured it out this morning. I've been out here for hours. I've been bending and modifying brackets, grinding on some brackets. I've tried to hang this stuff up here 3 or 4 different ways this morning already. And then it finally hit me what I'm going to do. But first, I got to move the radio. The radio takes up a lot of space. I barely could reach it anyways. And I want this to be tools. So we're going to move the radio to right here. But before I do that, I got to move this organizer bin. We're going to move the organizer bin to right here on the wall. But before I could do that, I got to move all this junk. Perfect. Well, now that we got this wall rearranged, had to move stuff around, got the radio set. I think I am going to build some kind of blind around the saw so it doesn't get as dusty in the future. But that's for the future, or in the future, whatever. So the first thing I'm going to do is move up my DeWalt power tool rack. I'm going to move it up 2 notches. I'll be able to put the bandsaw on top still, and it'll free up a few more inches below it. So I was going to rebuild this rack, and I've decided to keep it. It's served me well for several years. It does have some flaws in it, but I think I could putty it up and it'll paint out nice enough, at least for the garage. So let's start with that, and then we'll go from there. I actually kind of love these tools lined out like this. It looks cool. The one thing I didn't like is getting them off. You kind of bump into the other ones. Getting them perfectly level. I spent hours modifying these, bending these, twisting on them to get it to where the tools lined up level. Of course, I had them all in a row, so it was pretty cool, but it takes up a lot of extra space, and I want to hang them vertical. And I used to have them hanging off the bottom of this shelf, if you remember correctly, but we modified it a few videos ago. And I didn't know how to build a whole new rack without just a ton of work until this morning. I got to looking at these shelf racks. They come with this pegboard, and it does have a metal shelf. But I think what I could do, if I could get this in here, is hang these wherever I want and whatever width I want, build a board that goes on top of it, and put my notches in it. So I could build one that's half the width of the tool rack. It'll hold 3 tools. If I want to expand it in the future, it's just a piece of wood. I cut it and set it on top. That's the same thing I'm going to do with the guns too. So let me find a piece of wood and we'll start milling on this. So I found me a piece of 3/4 ash plywood. It's the perfect depth. It's longer than what I need. And I'm going to cheat to get my layout. I'm going to just set this up here, flush it up the best I can. Here in a minute, I'll show you how I lay these out and how I do it. But for this one, I'm going to cheat. So I'm just going to set that up there, and then I'm going to trace it. Now, I'm probably going to cut these a little deeper, but this will kind of give me an idea of where they need to be, and that's the main thing I need. And I'm just going to trace it out like that. Now I'm going to find the overall measurement of my brackets, which looks like it's right at 10 inches. And I want a 1/2 inch hangover on either side, so we're going to make our board 11 inches. Now that I have my board at 11 inches, how I did that is I found the center mark of one of my cutouts, and then I measured over 5.5 each way. That gave me 11, and then it centered everything up. Like I said, I'm going to make my grooves a little deeper, about a 1/2 inch deeper. So I went in and center punched each one of those. And now I'm going to find the appropriate size hole saw and drill that out. All right, so I have my hole saw loaded up in the drill. I can't remember if this was scary last time I done this or if this is going to work out well. I think I am going to clamp it. I think it'll drill through this without too much effort, but I don't want to break my arbor to my hole saw bit, so we went ahead and clamped it. It'd help if I secured the table. Now it's off. It's like I've never used this thing before. All right, let's see if it works. Now I just got to do that 2 more times. So when I installed this radial arm saw, one question I had is what's some of the advantages over the radial arm saw versus just having the miter saw in here. And one thing I could do with this thing is I could crank it up. Now this one is super stiff for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm able to crank it up and still get a flat cut. So we're going to crank this up quite a ways. You'll see there's actually a lot of movement. And it gives you the ability to do, well, all kinds of custom cuts. And I'll tell you what, I need to get me some dry lube. Don't ever use any kind of lubricant on your cranks and stuff in your tools because the dust will just kill them. But I want to crank this up to just above center of that circle. So I got just a little more to go. I want to be above center. So we're going to go about right there. Now before I do this cut, just know that I have it clamped 9 ways from Sunday. I had to space it out so that I could actually start the radial arm saw because it was already hitting the saw blade. And I don't want to go higher because I'm trying to get this cut down to here. So I spaced it out with the block. I clamped it real well. And now I can line up my saw blade where I want it. And then I could clamp this block down. Make my cut. If I got to make adjustments from there, it is what it is. But this is how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to keep cutting until I get right down to where it lines up with the edge of my circle. Somehow I nailed the depth of that cut perfectly on the first try. I need to tap it over just a hair, cut it one more time, but then we'll line it up, cut the rest of them, and we should be good to go. Well, that worked out pretty well. Now I just need to sand it up. I'm going to try to sand the inside a little bit. So I have this little drum sander attachment for the drill or drill press. This is not how I did mine. I didn't sand mine. But let's see if we could doctor this up a little bit more or if we just totally blow it. I guess in most cases this would be considered a spindle sander. I don't know if this is going to work for us, but it's doing some good. It's serviceable. It's not ideal. I think I need to build me a fixed table with a hole in it so I can slide this stuff around better. But this will work for this project. We'll save that for another day. Well, I think I can live with that. I think the grooves ended up being a little deeper than I wanted, probably about a ½ inch deeper than I wanted. But that gives me a little bit of leeway because like the Sawzall bottoms out here, the multi-tool and die grinder could sit a lot farther in. So different tools, different alignments. I could just pull these back and make it look decent. Ain't nothing wrong with that. The last thing I need to do is make sure it's good and square on here. So these little shelf brackets have indents on it. And I need to drill a hole, 4 holes in the bottom of this shelf so that those indents will kind of lock into it and it'll keep it a little more stable. So I'm going to make sure it's good and square with this first bracket. We'll make those 2 indents and then we'll come back and make these last ones. So I think how I'm going to do that is just apply a little bit of pressure and hopefully mark it some, and then I'll drill me looks like about a 1/4 inch hole will do it. I don't know if you can see it or not, but see it indented the plywood just a little bit. I'm just going to put a little 1/4 inch diameter hole, maybe 1/4 inch deep. Then we'll be able to set it on there, line up the other side, and get it perfect. All right, that lined out perfect. Now we'll just go in and square this side and pretty much do the same thing. I got my last hole drilled in it. I went ahead and went over and edge sanded it, got the edges cleaned up, no saw marks, finish sanded it, and I put the same 1/8 inch round over that we put on our hutch on it. So now it'll match up real good. We're going to set it in place one last time. It locks down in place. We'll hang up our tools. And I think I'm going to call it a day here. Good morning, Bowers Creations. Welcome back. It's been a while, but we're still pushing on. We're back on the hutch build. We're hoping to try to do our final push to get it built before we try to paint it, but we'll see how that goes. We still need to build a way to mount our battery chargers and our nail gun rack, and then we need to figure out where we're going to put our power strip, get it mounted, go from there. But the first thing I want to do is I'm going to crank up my heater a little bit. We are experiencing our first cold snap, or real cold snap in the panhandle here. It's not horrible. It's 33 degrees outside with the wind chill of 27. But since it's still early in the season, I'm not acclimated to it yet. So we're going to turn up the heater and enjoy it. So the first thing I want to work on this morning is building the backboard for the chargers to mount to. Sitting here kind of looking at it. I want about a 1/2 inch on either side, plus a little gap in the middle. So it looks like about 15 inches long. And then for the height, it looks like I'm going to need about 1.25 inches for cable management on the top, maybe even 1.5 inches. So Let's go 6 3/4. It's kind of big, but it'll give us plenty of room on the top to route our cords and get them where we want them. Per usual, we edge sanded it, sanded up the face of it, put our little round over on it. This particular piece of plywood happens to be maple, but it's not going to matter. We're going to paint it. It is a horrible green on the back, but again, we're going to paint it, and that'll be to the back, so only you'll know besides me, or me and you will know, whatever the case may be. And now we need to start laying it out for where we're going to mount our screws to hold our chargers. So this is kind of painstaking here to get it right. I'm just going to measure from the bottom. Looks like 4 1/16 plus a 1/2 inch, so 4 9/16 from the bottom. And then all I'm going to focus on at first is this first screw hole. 1 7/8 plus a 1/2 would be 1 3/8. So I'll mark all that out. I'll go back and sand all this off. Everything's going to get sanded again before paint, so don't worry about that. Probably bondoed and sanded and all kinds of things. We got a lot of work to do before paint, but right now we're just trying to get it all built, set up, so that when it is painted, we could just put it back together. Oh, that's 3 1/8 inches. So we'll do the same thing, burn an inch here. So we're going to mark 4 1/8. Lightly put a line. And my square is not long enough. And put a little crosshair. Do the same thing with the DeWalt. Put our screws in, adjust them, and then we'll see about mounting it to the backboard. So we got everything laid out how we wanted it after double checking and doing it twice. I've said this before. One of my favorite YouTubers always says we do it nice because we do it twice. That's oftentimes the case here as well. Turns out the best screw I have for this application is a straight edge or a flat head, whatever you like to call it. Tell me in the comments, is it a straight edge or a flat head? I don't know. All right, so we left those out just a little bit, and now we're just going to try and set these on and off until we get just the right amount of screws sticking out. Feels like I need to go in quite a bit more on these two. Sometimes this is a process. The main thing I don't want is this charger coming loose when you're trying to take the battery off. It just does no one any good. I think we got this one right where we want it. Just like so. I think that's going to look real good right there. Of course, I won't be able to mount it till my wife wakes up because I'm going to need someone to hold it in place while I screw it from the back. I'll also need to move the Jeep out of here so I can move all the toolboxes to get to the back. And I just don't want to open the garage door right now. Like I said, I've been paying to heat the garage all night long. I don't want to let all that heat out. Just dollars fluttering out the door. You've seen me say that before. I also have something, though, I want to talk about. I want to ask about. So I bought this 3/8 impact, and I don't have any 3/8 impacts. Now, obviously, I could get an adapter and use my 1/2 inch impacts, but that's just going to add to the girth and length and weight of this thing. I was wanting it to be kind of compact, easy to use for quick teardown, stuff like that. Should I go buy some 3/8 impacts or just use a 1/2 inch is the first question. But my real question is, I've been eyeballing the Quinn set. Quinn has a 3/8 impact set I think it's 48 pieces for $99. It comes with deep and shallow, metric standard, some extensions, and a swivel, things like that. And it's $99, normal price. You could probably catch it on sale. Harbor Freight's always got stuff on sale. But then I found a Vevor set at Home Depot. It's $105 at Home Depot. I've seen it on Amazon for $84, but it's a 90-piece set. It comes with all the same stuff the Quinn does, but then it comes with 2 complete sets of swivel sockets, just shallow, but standard and metric, for, like I said, $84. Anybody got any experience with Vevor? I know they don't come with a warranty. I figured if I did break one, I'd just go buy a better brand of that particular size. Keep moving on with life. Tell me down below if you have any experience with either one of these brands. Which one would you recommend? Anyways, back to the show. Well, here we are. We're taking it all down. We're moving it again. About typical. For those folks with OCD, you know what it's like. Actually, I'm just playing. I think this spacing and cutouts will work perfect for my nail guns. So I'm just going to set it up here and see how the nail guns hang. I took our little rack we built yesterday and moved it over here because I wanted to try it with the nail guns. It looked like it was going to be pretty close. And it actually is, but the only gun I'm having problems with is this pass load gun. It has a little bracket right here that's interfering before it seats down in the groove. And I think I could remedy that. I took my micrometer and I measured all the handles, and I think narrowing up that groove, it'll seat before it hits that bracket. So I found me a proper size hole saw, which happens to be an 1.25" hole saw. So let's talk about some measurements anyways, because you may be wanting to build one of these yourself at the house. So on the power tool rack, it was a 1 3/4 hole saw, and then the spacings are actually 3 1/4 center to center. So you want 3 1/4 center to center, and then a 1 3/4 hole for your power tools. They'll probably fit quite a variety of different brands, I imagine. Now, what we're going to do on the gun rack is we're still going to use a 3 1/4 center to center, but with an 1 1/4 hole saw. Now, a little secret, you just seen me measure center to center by hooking it. Top to top, bottom to bottom, side to side is the same as center to center. So instead of coming in here and trying to hold it on center to center, or even marking it and holding it on center to center, you could just hook it. Left to left or right to right is the same as center to center. Little trick I learned years ago, might help you out someday, especially on something like pipe or something like that where it's round and you can't find the perfect center. Left to left, right to right, top to top, bottom to bottom, it's still center. So maybe that'll help you out in the future. So one last thing, if you're trying to lay these out or trying to make one similar to this, is to the back of this hole is 2 1/4 inches. Now it's worked with my DeWalt's, but what I don't like is the DeWalt's have this light right here. So it causes the DeWalt's to kind of hang at a little bit of an angle. If you pull them back, it hangs flat, but then the drill is hanging out past the groove. So that's about 2 1/4 there. This one up here is about 3 1/2. And with the DeWalt's, it's actually about perfect. In fact, I didn't plan on this. That hangs up there pretty good. So it's flush on the back of the drill and has room. So that one's 3 1/2. This one's 2 1/4. Now, for tools that doesn't have the light on it, this 2 1/4 measurement works pretty good if there's not a battery in the way. And they hang pretty flat. So there's just some numbers to go off. I hope that helps. I got to get back on mine. So I got this last piece built. I built it just like the other one, except for the new measurements. Now, one thing I might do, I won't do it on camera, but I think I'll run me a piece of wood across. We'll doctor it up, round it over, probably hardwood, and put me a little brace under there. That'll kind of help it from bowing. I'll do it on this other one as well. Just a little extra support. But these guns fit up here Pretty deadgum nice. It turned out awesome. Oops. If I put them right side up, that looks pretty good. They hang up there just like that. And then we got the upholstery stapler. It could just sit there as far as I'm concerned. Now we just got a few more little things to do. Of course, I got to attach our battery charger, find out where I want it, and then we got to do some cord management. What was that? So I'm trying to move this thing off the wall so I can do my last final touches before getting it ready for paint. And I'm also trying to see how well stuff will ride up there, just in case I ever do need to move it across the garage. I need to know if I need to take the guns down or anything like that. Looks like the only casualty was the upholstery gun fell over. I think I could live with that though. So next I'm gonna see about mounting the battery charger. I think I'll move the tape measures over, put the battery charger right here. All right, that don't hook too bad right there at all. Now the next thing is a battery charger, but first, check this out. So if you've been watching, I've had this power strip. I think we're going to put this power strip right here, like so. So what I think I'm going to do is take a measurement and then rip me a spacer. Got me a spacer cut. Let's see how this works out. Set it here in place. Center it up. Should be able to let this hang right about there, I think. That'll be about perfect. And then we'll put our power strip on. Just like so. Now we're doing just a little bit of cord management. I'm not going to get too carried away with this because on the light, for example, all that will have to come down. But let's see if we can clean it up a little bit for now. For one last final touch, I bought these little cord cap things, is what it calls it. Furniture cord caps. We've all seen them in desk. I need to drill a couple of those in. I think I'll put one right here. Then another one right up there. Let's see how this goes. I tested it in a practice piece of wood. They didn't fit very well. So when we get our final product, we may have to glue them in. Here goes nothing. This is a lot of work to just drill a hole in. Holy smokes, I drill through metal all the time, and that was a pain in the butt drilling through this MDF. Let's put it back up against the wall, see what it looks like. So I think this is pretty much going to wrap up our hutch build here. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head I need right now or want to add to it. There is one thing I've been considering. You might have to tell me in the comments what you think. I'm thinking about ordering some more of these shelf brackets and building some more assemblies similar to this. If you notice, the drills actually fit on there very nice, about perfect. And I think it'd be cool to kind of break this up some. There's a big just chunk of stuff right here. Unfortunately, I would lose the space for my bandsaw and I'd lose the space for my batteries. So we may leave it alone. We may break it up. I don't know. I hope you enjoyed this series on this hutch build. It's been slow coming because I don't have a lot of time to work on it, but I think it's going to turn out pretty good. I got a 4-day weekend coming up here. We're going to get it all painted. Hopefully, we can get the powder coat done, and we'll see the final product soon. In the meantime, I appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll catch you next time.